What we're going to be doing today is using a canvas, a cotton canvas, okay, and we're making an abstract with cling wrap plastic. I'll be using the cling wrap, but what you can also use is most times a canvas will come in a wrap like this, and you can actually use this as well. But what we're doing now is we're going to be using the cling wrap. We're going to be using a fairly dark color, and stick with me and I'll show you how I do it. So we're back. Here's my cellophane, and we call it cling wrap, whatever the product name is. What I'm going to do is take the cling wrap and just randomly cover the canvas. You might want to twist it a little. I'm going right round. Once it hooks at the back, then it should be easier. So the cling wrap actually clings, actually hooks on, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of getting a crisscross effect. You might even want to twist the cling wrap, but what you're not doing, I don't want to make it too tight. I don't want to make it too tight. I want to leave these little bubbles. I also want to try to cover the canvas area totally. Now, if you want to, you can actually swing around and come down from the top. Doesn't matter, as long as we've got a little gap in the painting area that we can do our pour. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get this to cling right round, cling right round. You must try to have the cling wrap loose enough to be able to move it. So in other words, I can actually move the cling wrap in this fashion, yeah? And these little open area might be actually quite nice. The lovely part about this abstract painting is I have no idea what the result is going to be. I can try, but I don't have any idea what the result is. So we tear that off. Okay, and we set that aside. And then I'm going to be mixing up some paint. At this point, it's an abstract painting, so I'm using black, a little bit of black. Okay, not too much, not too thick. You want it to be runny. You want it to be thin and runny. Put some water in here and mix it up. You also don't have to thoroughly mix it. So you can't see the black paint in there, but I'm going to show you it's black. Keep the brush with the black. And what I've decided to do is make a mauve with my trusted purple. I put my purple in, something like that. Any color will do. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add white to my purple. And add white to my purple. A generous amount of white. And then water it down with some water. I would say there's more water in here than paint. And I'm going to show you the color I'm getting, which is a nice color. Remember, we're working with the black and the purple, the mauve. So I'll just put this color on here, and you might see that color. We're working with the black, so that purple is going to have black that's spreading into the purple. Okay, there we go. It's as easy as this. You can do it at home and have fun. You can use any color you like. Okay, this is the fun part. I'm going to pour the paint into this gap, and then I'm going to move the canvas around. Okay, I'm going to start with it flat, just because I'm not sure what we're going to see. There's the black. Now I'm going to slow this process down so that you can actually see what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to do something really strange underneath the plastic. does something really strange. If I lift the canvas up for you to see, you can actually get a better idea of what actually happens to that paint. Don't put too much paint on. Don't put too much paint on. It's a kind of messy process, so you're going to end up... Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm adding the violet. The violet, there's a blob of purple in there, which actually could work quite nicely. So I'm just going to toss that in there. Okay. And what I'm doing now, watch the paint as it goes. Watch the paint as it goes. Going all over. And there we get a bit of a mix happening. And that's looking good, actually looking good. If you can see these parts here, these parts over here, they're bubbles underneath the plastic. Those are going to form nice shapes. So we don't want to flatten everything out. There's a very nice shape happening here. Very nice, the way that the plastic was turned. Okay, so I'm tipping it. It's a good idea to remember to actually wrap the whole canvas in your cellophane. Okay, and if you can see that, you look at these little marks that are happening here. Actually very, very nice. Some areas, this is going to form a very strong edge, and which is what usually happens. Something to remember is that the paint is moving all the time underneath the plastic. Okay, one more thing I want to show you is if you pull the plastic, it actually creates another interesting dynamic. And you might even start seeing a landscape forming, which is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a landscape starting to form underneath the canvas. See how that runs? Okay, it's running like that. And always keep a rag at hand, because you're going to need to either wipe the table down or wipe the floor. Okay, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. You're getting these shapes happening, and I'm going to put a darker area in, which is my black, and I'm going to literally pour it into this cavity, lift up the plastic here, make a little hollow, and pour it right in there, and leave the canvas flat for now. Let's see what happens. Maybe lift it slightly, let it run this way. That's looking good. That's looking very good. Very, very nice. And let it run this way. Lift it up so it comes underneath. That's looking very good. Okay. Now what we do is we take, I've got two white blobs here. I actually don't want those in, so I'm going to flatten them out and then mix it with the black with my finger, and just let that run a bit like that. Maybe run back again. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so we point out again these bubbles. That's actually quite nice. These bubbles that are happening here, they're going to form shapes for you. They'll form shapes that you can actually use. So we finished the stage not knowing what it's going to be like. So you're just happy to leave it like it is, and it needs to be left for quite a long time, because the plastic is going to stop it from evaporating quickly. So you want it just to dry as dry as possible, and stick with us, stick with me, and you'll see what the next stage is. Okay. Interestingly, this cellophane or cling wrap project, I haven't taken the cling wrap off yet, but it took surprisingly long to dry underneath. It needs to be really dry. So what we did was we poured ink underneath acrylic paint, and what we're doing now is we're going to remove it. You want it to be dry, it must be dry underneath, the paint underneath. So we're ripping this off and see what happens. You never know. You never know what's happening or what it's going to look like. It's going to leave marks behind. Now see, the cling wrap is really clung to the canvas, and that's not a good thing. The paint is dried and it's stuck the sticky plastic on. But let's just keep going. Never know. Seems to be doing fine. I'm peeling off the plastic. What I sometimes do is I use a trash bag, which is usually a color and it's opaque. But for this exercise I wanted to use a clear. What we have here is the cling wrap, cellophane, abstract, and you can see how it's changed. It's going to give you shapes and forms that you cannot even imagine. So I'm going to show you that angle and give it a little time, maybe a couple of seconds, have a look at it, and you see, okay, I wonder what this could be. And I know what I think, but I want you to tell me, well, think about what you think. Let's turn it that way. What could that be? Could it be a forest? Could it be a flower? All we have to add is a stem in there, and then we've got a flower, we've got another flower, and we've got some random shapes happening down here. I've got a good idea of what I want to do. Let's turn it that way around and just give you a little hint. This is the way I'm going to work. This is the bottom of the painting and this is the top of the painting. Okay, and then the last one, give you an idea of what that looks like. There's another flower. There's a strange flower. And you can paint the background anything you want to. You can actually cover the background. You can change this into anything. So it's a little bit like a comic book, black line comic book, and you filling in the gaps. And I still want my painting to be abstract. I want it to be abstract. So I'm going to turn it my way, okay, which is what I'm thinking. I see the bottom of the painting here. I see the top of the painting there, and I definitely see a landscape. So let's give that a try. We need the green, or we can mix our green. Here's our green. Mix our green with a blue and a yellow, and we need some sky. This is an interruption in my design, my thought, so I'm going to actually cover that up. Then I see a distant sea, then I see a field and another field and a strange arbitrary shape here, which could be like an abstract body of water somehow there and there. And then I see grass growing here. So that's what I'm going to do. Have fun with yours, because none of these will ever be the same as the other. So what I'm going to start with is a very generous blob of white. Here's my white, and I'm going to put it into my palette like that, and I'm going to have a little bit of blue for the sky. So we're doing the sky, and it's not a realistic painting. It's going to be an abstract painting. I'm going to have a little bit of blue on that side, and I'm going to have a little bit of an orange on the other side, like that. Get the orange. Blue and orange are complementary, so they're opposite. So it's always nice to put it on the opposite side of your color wheel. On the opposite side of the color wheel, yes, but on the opposite side of your palette as well. So I'm going to start, and I really want to emphasize that this is an abstract painting. So it's going to turn into something completely different to what you're seeing now. I've got a really big brush, and I'm not going to dilute my paint. This is acrylic paint. I'm not going to dilute my paint. I'm going to work quite heavily because I want to cover this. This is a ray of light of some kind, and it's not, I don't want it there. So I'm going to show you how we can then start the painting. And I've got a dirty white with a touch of orange, makes it a dirty color. I'm starting at the top corner, and I'm going to run across here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with another layer. But I'm watching all the time, watching what is going to happen here all the time. Cover this whole area, make it a plain area. It's very busy, so I'm kind of trying to get this to be quiet. Have a little bit less noise in your painting in some areas. I'm going to kind of flatten out this part here. There's a horizon, there's my body of water. And we're going to work quite quickly because it's very, very hot in the day, in our day. So my paint is drying extremely quickly. Start introducing a bit of blue, make this kind of grey neutral color for the sky. And I'm not painting clouds, but I might see a cloud. There's a cloud, but I'm going to blot it out because I'm kind of using it as an abstraction. Try not to think too much about what it is. Just make it work for you. Just make the painting turn into something. And it's risky, always risky. You're going to want to maybe throw some of these away, like, don't worry about it. It's just one of those things. Might even want to keep some of these lines. They're quite cute. Mix, mix, mix. I'm mixing in the palette. I'm trying not to mix on the painting. But it is certainly quietening down. I'm zigzagging my brush so that it doesn't, it's not just a consistent, you're not painting a wall. You're painting your imagination. Use your imagination. It's a fantastic tool. Use your imagination. I'm cutting across, turning my brush. By the time I get to this side's going to be dry, and we'll be able to see what the next stage is. That's very blue, so I'm going to turn it into white. Starting to get blue across here, like a grey blue. When you crisscross like this, you actually are blending the color. The color's blending. And get some pure white in here. And remember that it can always change. You can always come back to it and change it. I'm saving my horizon. My horizon over here, I'm saving it. I'm going to save it all the way down to there. I've got a nice shrub in there. I've got a distant mountain in there. So as I'm going, I'm actually watching what I'm doing and seeing, okay, save some of the stuff. Save it. And it's coming up, it's coming up. This is drying quite quickly. And there's some marks here that are actually very nice. So I'm going to leave them there. Maybe blue this a bit. Okay. The essential part is to keep looking all across your painting, the area that you're painting. Keep watching what you're doing. And if it tells you something, do it, change it. Make a plan. I'm putting clouds in here now, which I really didn't think about when we started. And in a few minutes, I'm going to be flipping the painting over and you'll see what I've been doing. There's a stronger blue. And remember what we're doing here is also, I'm darting across the painting. I'm doing this. this is almost completely dry. That's that top area. Okay, so it's looking nice. Something's coming up. Essentially, it's just having a free mind. Try and free your mind of, you know, you're not painting an apple, you're not painting a box, you're not painting a tree or an old shoe or portrait of your friend. That's another painting. Those are other paintings. This is kind of moving from abstraction into a recognizable area, a recognizable subject matter. At the same time, technically, I'm trying to cover this undercoat, which was full of lines. Okay, now this is coming to the point where you can say it's actually nearly finished. The sky is nearly finished. So here we go down here. And I'm going to be flipping the painting to show you from your angle. Surprisingly quick. The drying speed is very, very quick in the heat. And that's a sign of a fair, good quality paint. Little blemishes like this I'll just take off with my fingernail. If it's in the canvas, then you'd have to kind of cover it up. And we're nearly ready to show what's happened here. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside like that, and then I'm going to show you what the sky area looks like. So that's what it's kind of looking like. So I've got a water body here. I'm going to go through the edge of the canvas. I've got a distant mountain, a shrubby kind of thing there, and then this whole area here is going to be washed with very thin paint because I want the lines to keep showing. I want the lines to actually keep showing. So there we are. That's the sky. The sky is actually finished. It's done. So now I'm going to switch brushes. I've got a blue in my palette, which I'm going to use, and I'm going to dirty it to give me a distance, and I'm going to be painting this water body here. And again, it can be as abstract as you want it to be. Possibly a second coat, because we'll be able to cover that. And it's changed that purple violet into a watercolor somehow. Add a bit of white, go across while it's wet, so you're working quite quickly. I'm going to now go to this area here, and that's a blue with an orange, which gives me this kind of distant nothing color, almost like a brown. They call it brown, but it's not brown. It's neutral. The color's neutral. And remember, at this point I'm working from top to bottom. I'm working from the top of the painting to the bottom of the painting. And that's so that I'm not working over the top of wet paint. So that's somehow that's a mountain. I don't know. It looks like a mountain. And it's also dry. Bring it right across. And what we do now is I'm going to lighten some areas. Remember, it's very important to consider things like tone, your tonal values. In other words, light and dark. Okay, we come in here with a bit of playful stuff. It's more realistic now. I'm putting some areas that you might call water or sea, or, you know, if you can name it, then it's not abstract anymore. It becomes a realistic thing. And so that's like it's enough for me at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to form a green, and I'm not going to paint that green because that's very obvious. I'm actually going to keep that pretty dark, and I'm going to run up the top here with that dark color. I've got a Naples color here, which is a soft yellow. soft yellow, which means it's yellow but it's got white in it already. So that's Naples yellow, and a pretty big brush, and we're going to colour this entire area here with that Naples, and not thick paint. It's going to be very soft paint. Okay, so what we're going to do, take a 1 minute break and we'll be back. So I'm ready to go. Found the brush we need, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dip into this this squirt bottle for water and make a little pool of water here. Actually quite a lot of water. Make it very thin, watery and thin, and pick up some yellow with my brush. So I'm picking it up at the corner. I'm getting a yellow, and I'm going to mix it with blue to make it, it's a neutral color. It's a dirty blue, neutral blue with yellow, and quite watered down. I think I said blue there, I meant green. So to give you an idea, I'm going to go over the top of this very thinly, okay, keeping my lines underneath so it's transparent. And it's actually very easy to do. I think the most difficult thing to do is to read your original abstract. Try and find what it is. Is it going to be a foliage? Is it going to be a bird? Is it going to be, you know, and it's abstract. It's an abstract bird. It's abstract flowers, abstract trees. You often might wonder, oh well, how did that guy do that? Well, it's not so difficult. It may look difficult when you've finished. When you look at someone else's painting and you say, wow man, how did he do that? I think that's one of the biggest compliments that could come my way, is if someone says to me, how did you do that? Wow, that's amazing. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this really dark. I've got to watch, there's a pool of water here, but I'm just going to watch that. And mixing an orange with a blue to make quite a dark color, like this. And when you do that, you're mixing it up as much as you can. And then I'm going to make a dark color. Make it really dark. It's turned into a neutral color again, like a brown. And I'm turning my brush this way so that I can get this edge. And I'm almost sure that this color is going to bleed into this pool of water, but that's also okay. You don't need to worry too much. I think just have the idea. Once you've got the idea, you are so close to, you know, finishing the painting once that idea's come in. I'm going to put something else up here, just because it feels like it should be. Pressing my brush down, releasing my brush, and I get a really strange kind of edge to that. I'm going to create a bit of a dimension on this. It's turned into actually like just a thing in the distance. So I'll just turn that into a thing in the distance. Have one side that might be darker than the other side. It doesn't matter which one it is. But try and keep that throughout your painting, throughout your structure of your painting. So we have some very strange shapes coming up here. And I'm using the undercoat. I'm using the undercoat to my advantage. Getting another one in there. Why? I don't know. It's just telling me to do that. It's when someone says the painting is speaking to you. And it's like, yeah, it sounds funny. This painting is speaking to me. But it actually is. I'm letting it tell me where to go next. And that's ready to flip around. Wait, one more thing I'm going to do. One more thing. I'm going to just put a little edge on there that runs off. Why? I'm not sure. Just looks like it should be there. So this is done. The next one we're going to do is here, and this may be one panel of color. So what I want to do right now is I want to flip the painting over and show you what we've done. And that's what we've done. And I can see that we need to put a little layer of white in some areas because some of the black lines are still showing through here. But if you have a look at this part here, it's creating quite an interesting middle distance, far distance, middle distance, foreground. So we'll take a quick break and I'll prepare the next selection of colors. Okay, so we're back again. What I'm doing is I'm going to take this orangey color and I'm going to actually dust it across this triangle that's happening here. This is going to be a water body, some kind, like a pond or something. And this could be as well. And this could be as well. It might be nice to have these three random, different size shapes. And what I'm going to do now, more for the demonstration, is I'm going to paint with quite heavy paint. It's almost undiluted. And I'm going to show you what happens here. I'm going to just, and as we say, keep watching what's going on in front of you. Look all over. Look at the top, look at the side, look at the bottom. Okay, going to go in there. I'm making three ponds. This could even be called three ponds. Might be quite a cute name. I'm flipping my brush over to get this bottom part, and I'm getting that edge in there. So what I've shown you is the use of a little bit heavier paint. I'm dragging it into my perspective lines, and I'm now going to take a dry brush, smaller dry brush, and I'm going to spread, I'm going to kind of smudge this color in. So it's a dry brush, and I'm going to work this color in, bringing my lines back. A little bit of an interruption in the line, so that it's not just consistent, you know, draftsman's line. And I'm going to work this. I don't want to kill this dark mark here because I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. And it was just absolutely by accident that it happened. This dark mark here, take my finger, pull it off again, and get some of my lines back. Some of my lines back, and we're ending up with an interesting landscape, seascape. It's got a bit of sea in it. I'm picking up some dark color to define this edge. To define this edge here. And I might come back to that and define it even more. There's a tree, or a shrub, or bush. There's another one. Okay. So now I'm ready to go into my, I'm coming down, so I'm going into these two water bodies here. New brush, a fair amount of water, I'm not too sure about the color, so I'm going to mix my color, and a fair amount of water is going to give me the start. I'm starting there, I'm going there. This is going to be kind of a horizontal mark, and this is also going to be a horizontal mark, and it's so watered down that I can't lose my dark mark that I wanted to keep. I wanted to keep that dark mark. Okay, and as I'm painting, I'm seeing, hey man, this would be really cool if we put a bit of white in here. Actually start with a thicker white, heavier paint, and why not leave the texture behind? That's cool. Okay, this black dot can go. Pick up some more white. You know, the idea of abstract is to say to someone, okay, what is this painting about? And they can make up their own mind. Say, yeah, it looks just like a landscape, or looks like green fields, whatever. Or maybe there's a bird in the sky, or something like that. And that's really a compliment if someone can say that. They're seeing something that other people may not see. Dry brush over the top. And when I put this white in, I thought that's actually quite nice, so I'm going to put the white in here too. Put the white in here too. Keep the shapes that you've got, because they really are random. They just happened. Didn't plan it, it just happened like that. Some white, and it's starting to come. While I'm here, I might as well do this one as well. And this might just be a plain one. I've got a bit heavier with the paint. I'm going to keep that line that's crossing over. So I'm painting on each side of the line. I don't want these blobs. That's a funny thing about abstract. When you decide you don't want something and it's supposed to be abstract, I often do that. If I'm on the move, I've got my paint, just dust off the thing on your fingers, wash it later on. So there we go. And let's just see what happens here. And we pull this down. And that needs to change a little. That's actually quite cute. I like it. Put my finger in there and just blend it a little, but the paint is already dry. Okay, so let's flip it over for you to see. And what we're going to do, the next phase of it is going to be a color, and I've got in mind green, a kind of green, and not the same we had up here. This is turned into more across the color wheel from green, but I'm going to make this really, really thin, and possibly with a very strong green, very bright green, which will mean this is going to come towards you. It's going to pull up towards you, and then we'll see how it goes. So we'll be back in a few seconds with the new range of colors ready to go. All the technical books say you should not do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Putting your paint straight on your brush makes it easier to get into my tub. It's a phthalo green, and I'm going to put a bit of water in here, tiny bit of water. Okay, I've got quite a lot to cover, and I'm going to test my color in an open area, in an area that's safe. It could even be the edge of the canvas, if you're not entirely sure. Now what I'm demonstrating here is how easy it actually is. Okay, so what I've got is a very strong green. If you can pick that up, see how strong that green is, it's pretty much kind of where I want it to be. It's phthalo, straight out of the tube, no mixing. And I'm going to load my brush. I've got a lot of paint waiting. I'm going to start from the top. Wait, stop. See what happens with abstract is a little drop of green. That I'll just take off with my finger. Okay, what that was a loose random hair that came off my brush. Okay, I'm putting the green on, and I'm going to work this panel here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to thin it down by brushing over it a lot. So I'm not getting more paint. I'm not getting more paint. I'm just using the paint that's in my brush. One of my favorite brushes. Okay, try and follow the lines of that came from our cellophane cling wrap project. And now the paint is starting to get very thin on my brush, less paint, which means more black lines. Take your finger, if something goes wrong, just wipe it off. That's not a problem, easy as that. Okay, try and follow the lines. And what I'm going to do, I'll show you, this painting's almost finished. They say that green is not a very good selling color. But if it's sparingly used or carefully used, I don't see why it says, they say that it's not a good selling color. I don't know if that means suiting your lounge suite or suiting the curtain colors. What I'm doing here is I'm actually taking some of the paint off, because there were some areas that had beautiful black lines that have been covered. And while it's still wet, I'm just taking the paint off. Here it's going a bit opposite to my perspective, but I'm getting my black lines back. Man, oh man, that's really cool. I love it. I love it. One more thing we're going to do. I'm happy there. I'm going to darken this first horizon that happens. I think that's really cool. I love it, and I love the green. It's really thrown the painting into another dimension, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to just take, let's take a red and a green. You could almost take any complementary color and your goal will be achieved. So I'm taking red and green because it's because I'm right in front of it. And I'll take my good old pointy brush, take some paint out, and make a mixture that is really quite dark. You don't need to paint with black. I'm painting with dark, very, very dark. It's almost as good as black. Dab in there and get some liquid. And now what I'm going to do is make this really dark. And getting the base of my shrubs and my tree in with the point of my brush. And then I'm coming right across, making the top of my shrubs an interesting shape. None of them must be the same as each other. They must all be different. Okay, and that really gives it an edge. And there's another one. Now when I painted these shrubs in the first place, I thought, okay, they're cool, they're fine. No need to make them any different. But because I'm watching the painting, I'm starting to say, hey man, no, that would be nice to have a really dark part there. Must remember there's a big difference between color and tone. And tone in the end is more important than color. To create a tonal painting it's like a black and white copy, photocopy, or versus a color copy. I'm darkening this edge of my pond. Give it another dimension. The painting speaking to me. I'm listening, trying to listen. Be careful of wet paint. I touched there and it's wet. I'm coming back up again. And I don't want to put paint where I don't want to put paint. I want it to be where I want it to be. Darkening these, darkening this part. And if you need to steady your hand, you just put this hand against this hand and you can steady your hand. It's actually like very common sense really, without using a mole stick. Now I'll tell you what a mole stick is. Now darken this a little further. Okay, take it right to the edge. Okay, a mole stick is something where you can steady your hand with another brush. Make sure your brush is clean. You can use it this way. This brush is not clean, so I'm going to use it this way. And what I'm doing here is I'm just steadying my hand. I'm leaning against this brush and I'm steadying my hand. So that's one way of doing it. And an easy, simple way of doing it is just to use your other hand. It's crazy how it comes out. If you remember what this looked like in the beginning, it was like, how are you going to even get close to the finish of this painting? How are you going to turn it into something? Well, you can do it. I think we're nearly finished. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to show you the finished painting. Isn't that amazing? Well, it's an experience. It's experimental. You take it, you enjoy it, and don't be afraid to pass a comment in the comment section, because you may say, hey man, there's so much more that could be done down here. There's so much more that could be done down there. You can take this painting as far as you want to. You can just keep on painting, keep on painting. If there's an area you don't like, cover it up, do another thing, and yeah, so that's that painting.